Well, speaking of shits and giggles, welcome back, everybody, to the Locked Off Logic podcast. We're excited to have you back again. I hope you're enjoying our content so far. If you haven't already, go visit us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe, leave us a rating, comment. All those things are free to do. It really helped us out as far as getting our message out there to more people. And if you haven't already check out our Patreon, because our Patreon is now up and running.
It's up and running.
We have some exclusive content there. You can play a game with me and Sam. You can go to a movie. We can hop on a call and we can do a conversation about your favorite film or your favorite TV show or whatever you want to talk about. If you have an inspiring story to share, we'd love to have you on. And all that information you can find on our Patreon. Just go to patreon.com, Locked Off Logic Podcast, and it will take you straight there. You want a little sip?
Oh, no, it's just me and my OCD, bro.
Okay.
You know me just like...
You can have a little sip if you want.
No, I got my Coke.
And you'll see us... Oh, that's nice. Oh, jeez. Well, we're starting off good. Next couple weeks, watch for our content. We'll be interviewing the director of Sweet Molly, which Sam talked about in his podcast. It's his passion project, so watch out for that. There is, I'm sure you guys that are listening to the show know that The Last of Us 2 just came out with its second trailer. And so me and Sam will get an episode out on both The Last of Us TV series and The Last of Us 2 video game with someone who's playing the video game for the first time currently. And we'll talk about it before the show comes out.
Flip your mic.
You hear me now?
I mean, I think it will have picked it up. I'm sure it picked it up.
Okay, let me switch
But
it.
if it's facing inward, it's good.
Better.
Should be better. Let
Okay.
me just throw some headphones on. Make sure we're working here, folks.
We good?
Oh, shit.
What happened?
You sound fantastic.
Oh, okay, good. Well, we sound fantastic. We got some good content coming out, and so keep checking us out. And
This is 4?
4 episodes
This
in.
is 4
Yeah,
episodes
we have the
in.
intro episode. We have Yours in Mind. Logan, which just came out 2 weeks
that's
ago.
right.
And now we got the Sweet Life of Walter Mitty. We'll be talking about
Secret life.
Secret Life of. Did I say Sweet Life again? Gosh, yeah. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. But
Thanks for making it this far.
yeah, thanks for making it this far. I think we're kicking ass, taking names. Appreciate you guys' patience with us as we figure out this podcasting thing. And
Oh, the heater's on. The noise.
okay.
See, it's always something.
It's a cold day today.
It's always something.
I didn't even pick that up. That's a good call. But also, me and Sam will be going to Sundance in a couple weeks. We'll give you a review on some of the stuff that we've seen, some stuff to check out, and yeah, it's almost movie season time too. Where me and Sam will be back in the movie theater. I'm sure we'll see some great ones, and I'm sure we'll see some stinkers because every year we kind of get a mix of both.
Yeah.
I think last year we talked about, well, at least for me, the best movie I think we saw in theater was probably Civil War, and the shittiest one for me was definitely
Monkey Man.
Monkey Man. Yeah, Monkey Man was off. Skip Monkey Man. If you're gonna stream, skip, or watch in the theater, Monkey Man, just skip it.
Which is a bummer because I really like. Shoot, his name is now leaving me, but he did The Green Knight.
I like that movie too. But speaking of theater, Sam.
Anyways.
I mentioned this in the pre-show is what as someone who goes to theater quite often, what is your theater etiquette? What should people not do in the theater? Give me 5 of them that I don't know if you have time to think about this or if you have 5 on the top of your head.
Bro.
But I'd love to hear them because we'll do 5 and then we'll go to Walter Mitty. But you give me one, I'll give you one, and because I've thought about this.
So I go to theaters quite a bit when there's good things to be seen. I rarely go to the theater when there's a movie that I don't want to see. For 2 reasons. One, it's just money on something I don't care for. But then 2, I risk going to something I don't like and then having it disturbed by the people around me. I often just go to movies by myself, unless we're going to a movie, because people just don't have good etiquette in a movie theater. And there's so many things. The biggest thing is cell phones. Like, cell phones drive me nuts. It's like, it is an hour and a half of your day, 2 hours of your day, whatever. Just turn it off. Just turn it off. And then, especially like those who just keep it on mega bright, they don't even think to go,
The self-awareness.
I'm gonna turn this down even though it's still bright. They leave it on uber bright, and then they just scroll, and it's just mindless scroll, and it's like, this is not the place for this. I didn't pay for, and so here's the science behind this, right? The eyes focus their attention on two things first: the brightest object and movement. And those two things will catch your eye's attention first among everything else. And so when you're in a dark theater and then something bright pops up, your brain just goes there. Your mind just goes there. For me, it's just there. In fact, so much so that even when there's like little blue or red lights on seats next to me, and if people are moving and then I see the flash in my peripheral, I'm like, bitch, it's not a phone.
Yeah.
You know,
He's going to the shitter.
but that's the biggest thing is turn off your phone. If you need to text someone or call someone, just step up and get out, right? That's my biggest thing. And then talking drives me nuts. There's been a few times when I haven't presented my best self in the public eye when I'm watching a movie and the whole row behind me is just making commentary. I went and saw Scream, the latest Scream.
Gosh.
And maybe I don't want to admit this into the podcast, and the people who see this and go, wow, like, what an inconsiderate human being. There was a whole row of horny college students that were all on dates behind me, and they were all just trying to show off to their dates and like making commentary during the first like 15 minutes of Scream. And I just stood up to her and I said, will you shut the fuck up? I'm here to watch a movie, not you. And they just whoosh. I said, thank you. Turned around, sat back down, and watched Scream. And everyone else is around me, right? I think they appreciated it. You know?
Yeah.
The washer machine of my neighbor just started. Hopefully that doesn't affect us.
I don't know. Well,
Let me
do you
just
hear it?
let me just listen. Oh, well, it stopped now when I go to listen. So, whatever. Anyways, I could go on and on. Put your cell phone away. Don't talk. And just be considerate, you know? Like, I get emergencies. I'm not trying to be ruthless. But at the same time, people go and pay money.
A lot of money, too.
A lot of money.
It's
It's
not
not
cheap
cheap. It's not cheap. It takes time out of their day. They have to travel there. And people are just going to escape, right? Leave all of your shit behind. Just go and enjoy a movie and watch a movie, right? I also don't love like cheering in movies. That can be tricky. I mean, there's times when like
They cheered during your movie.
yeah, they cheered. There was an audience that's 2 screenings that cheered during Sweet Molly, and I liked it. But the constant cheering, like when a character, I mean, it was the whole Marvel universe, especially when it was like Infinity War,
Oh, God.
Endgame, and it was like every single time a superhero showed their face on the screen, it was like applause and cheering. And it's like, you guys, we've already seen them before.
Yeah. And they're talking, like you're missing important dialogue here.
Yeah, it's like, just shut up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is my biggest problem with going to movies is other people that just have no self-awareness of or consideration that anyone else came to a movie to sit in a dark room and just enjoy like this experience. And everyone else that's there just on their phone or scrolling, whatever, just ruins it. I remember there was one time when I was living in Huntington Beach, California, I went and saw a movie, and it was midday, like 2:30 p.m. It's an pretty empty theater, a few seats filled. And of course, there's someone that's sitting next to me out of an empty theater. And it's
That's the worst.
awesome. Thanks, guys. Like, there's a million chairs and you want to come sit next to me. Awesome. So it's a couple and he falls asleep 5 minutes in and he starts snoring. And it's not like a gentle snore, which is still
Annoying.
No.
Yeah.
Right? No.
Like, stay awake.
He starts snoring, and it's getting louder and louder, and I turn, and she looks over to me, and I go, are you going to wake him up, or am I going to wake him up? And she didn't say anything. She just looked at me, and then she turned over and, like, nudged him. And it was like, why do I have to tell you to wake up your partner who's making noises, loud-ass noises.
Right next to me.
Right next to me in the theater.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, people, sometimes I just wonder how
We've survived this long as a species.
people have survived as a species.
Oh, dude. No, I'm the same way. I think the cell phone thing, yeah, like, I remember you got after me once because I pulled out my cell phone in Monkey Man. I just couldn't help myself. It was so boring. So it hasn't happened since. It won't happen again.
No, I appreciate it.
But
You were a bit of a phone user.
I was. Yeah.
And I was like, I love you, Tyler, but you got to put the phone away,
Yeah, put the
bro.
phone away. Yeah. And I did.
And thank you.
But to my defense, Monkey Man was bad. I want that on record. It was bad. Skip it. But still shouldn't have done it.
But thank you.
Yeah, the clapping thing gets me too. I'm like, yes, it's Tobey Maguire, but Tobey Maguire is also talking. He's contributing to the story. Like, when you're so immersed in a movie and people start clapping and they make it about themselves and they stand up and cheer, I'm just like, And Marvel really they're the culprit to that because they put in these cameos and they've made like these moments specifically where, okay, let's give these people 5 seconds to clap. And the cameo thing, like if they make a reference to like a past movie and people cheer and they comment, I'm like, I just don't care. Just don't care. Like, yes, they referenced Iron Man, the first Iron Man that came out 14 years ago. I don't care. Just let the movie finish, and then you can dissect it later on your own TikTok or your own podcast. For me, I hate when people show up late to a movie, where a movie star and they're still walking in and they're talking. Like, please, like that rule number 1 in the movie, I believe, is shut the fuck up. Like, please be quiet. Like, no one cares about your commentary. You have nothing positive, nothing additional to add to the current movie experience. Save it for after, because nobody cares. Another one is, especially now with like assigned seating, find your own seats. Sit in your assigned seats. Make sure you're separate from other people. And then once the movie starts and you're 15 minutes in and no one sat in those seats, then you can move if you want. But at the beginning, just sit in your own seats. And babies. Oh, I love babies. I love them. I have a nephew and a niece, both little babies. I never want to see a movie with them until they're at least 5 or 6 years old. Because anytime someone brings in a cradle, a carriager, you know what I'm talking about? I'm just like, oh no, please don't sit by me. But even then, when the baby cries, because it will, because we were seeing Cocaine Bear, it's gonna wake up. It's gonna wake up and it's gonna start to scream, and you're just like, And then, like, if you're gonna bring a baby to a movie, please don't. If you do, when it starts crying, take it out right away. Because some people they don't.
No, they don't.
They just leave it there, and it just cries, and it goes on 20 minutes, and they finally take it out, and keep your babies at home.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I like babies. I love babies.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
But if you made a choice to have a child, there's sacrifices that come with that. I get it. You don't get date nights as much. You don't, right? Like, it takes all of your time and stuff. And if you need to go to a movie, you deserve it. You need to go to a movie. Find a babysitter or find someone else. Or go to a movie theater that has a quiet box. Mm-hmm. Those exist. For those of you who don't know this, if you look at a movie and it says quiet room, That means you can go with your baby and you can sit in the quiet box and you can watch it. It's like a mother's lounge. Like, thank you for those. Use them, but people don't use them.
No.
Some do, but yeah, when they start crying, and I get it, which just happens. Take them out immediately. Don't leave them. When they leave them, it's like, not everybody. Like you should not subject the. I probably sound awful. You should not subject other people to your choice of having a child when it is upset in a environment like a movie theater where people go to pay to be in a very specific environment that is tailored for the experience. It's incredibly selfish.
Yeah.
Incredibly selfish to just leave your baby crying there until you hope that they calm down.
Yeah.
It's absurd. That reminds me of another one. I went and saw The Substance of a few months ago, which I really enjoyed, actually. The ending was absolutely nuts. Like, I still am not sure what I watched. And I went on a date, and she wanted to see it, so we went and saw it. But I was like, hey, so there's not a lot of things that bother me. But one of the things that's my big pet peeves is at movies, people talking and cell phones. But part of the talking aspect is not just talking, but it's when someone goes, a new character pops up on screen that you're both seeing for the first time, and they go, "Who's that? Where did they come from? What do they want?" It's like,
we're both seeing this for the first time.
We're both experiencing. I don't know, but I trust that the filmmakers are going to fill us in as it goes on. If we just shut up and keep watching,
Yeah.
Like, I like, there's people that just cannot help it.
Yeah.
And I have like friends and family members that are like that. It's like, who is that? What's going on? It's like, I don't know.
We're both seeing this for the first time.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you keep asking me, I'm never going to know because I'm going to miss it.
Yep.
So keep your questions. Just like if you have a question when you're watching a movie with someone, just wait a little bit longer before you pose it, and you will find that the answer will be presented to you.
There you go. That's your
That's
result.
my spiel. I'm actually a friendly person.
No, but this was a good rant session because, like, I mean, I took a buddy to go watch Black Panther: Wakanda Forever a couple years back, and he was asking me a whole bunch of questions about different characters, and I was like, man, this universe has existed for almost 15 years now. If you are not caught up at this point, I don't know if you ever will be.
Yeah.
And so why are you seeing this?
Yeah.
Why are you seeing Black Panther Wakanda Forever? If you happen to ask a question, whose funeral that we're having at the beginning of the movie, when that character that is dying is the whole premise of the movie we're about to see, and that character who's died had appeared in, 7 MCU projects before this, it's like, why are you coming in this late and you're watching Wakanda Forever?
Come on now.
But we are not here to talk about Wakanda Forever or The Substance.
But these were great questions. This was a great
This
question
was a great
to start.
conversation. Yep, this was. Yep. Cinema etiquette. Please study it. And I say the same thing about people at the gym when they first come to the gym this new year. It's like, you're welcome here. This is a good thing that you're here. That you get to experience, transformation with your body, with your mind, your soul. Same thing with a movie. But when you come into a new environment, there's certain etiquette that you need to follow so that you don't ruin the experience for other people. At the gym, it's like, don't stand in front of the dumbbells. Don't film your workout right in front of the dumbbells. Don't film other people in the gym. Stuff like that. Don't stand on a piece of equipment for 2 hours. Like, you gotta share the gym. Movie, same thing. You're coming in this environment. You're welcome here. We'd like to have you here. It makes for a better. I'm glad you get to experience this together as a human. Put the cell phone away or use it in the pisser. And please be quiet. Pick your seat. And if you have a baby, please leave it at home. I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
So let's all just do better in the new year. But we are not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Sam Sargent's favorite movie, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
I got to tell you, my buddy, shout out to Jake Bevan. He's a listener of the podcast. And
Thanks, Jake.
when I asked him once what one of his favorite movies was, way back, like this would have been like 5 or 6 years ago, and he told me this before I'd seen it. He told me The Sweet Life of Walter Mitty, and I kind of laughed at him. I was
The
like,
Secret Life.
the what is it?
You said The Sweet Life again.
The Secret Life.
The Secret Life.
The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. He told me it's The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and I laughed at him. I was like, why? Like, because I'd seen the trailers and the preview and anything like that, and he was like, you gotta watch it and you'll figure it out. Because I was like, well, it's not Godzilla. It's not Coach Carter. He's a big Coach Carter fan. Coach Carter's a good show, by the way. And I don't know if he's ever seen Godzilla, but Coach Carter he's definitely seen. And I was like, why Walter Mitty? Like, that sounds like a show that you wouldn't be into. Because the trailer, like, I watched the trailer again before coming to the podcast, and the trailer is, I mean, it looks almost like a little rom-com, like it was directed by Rob Schneider or Matthew McConaughey or something. And
Ben Stiller.
it was directed by Ben Stiller, but I didn't know at the time.
Right.
It looked like a rom-com. So I watched it on an airplane, and yeah, it's a good film. I really enjoyed all of my watchings of Walter Mitty. I feel bad I made fun of him first. So I apologize, Jake, if you're listening. My bad. You were right, as usual. I was wrong. And Walter Mitty's a good film. But why, tell me about the first time you saw it, Sam. This is your favorite movie. This is your show. Tell me about the first time you saw this movie and the experience you had.
Yeah, man. So The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, directed by Ben Stiller, is my favorite film, and it's been my favorite film for a long time. And like I've said in the past, it's not that it's the best film I've ever seen per se, like executed, right? However, for me, it's my favorite film because of when I watched it, what it caused for me, and what it still inspires me. So the first time I saw it must have been 2014, 2013. It was a year or so after it had come out in the theater, and it was Christmas Day, and I was at undergrad in Rexburg, Idaho, and I was all alone. It was nobody, everyone had gone home. The 18,000 students had all gone home. It's like a ghost town in Holiday. And so I was staying at college for that break, and I was just figuring out what I was going to do. Decided, I'm going to watch Secret Life of Walter Mitty. It was one of the best Christmases of my life. Like, it's just such a peaceful day. I don't know what about it, why that day was so special, but it just like, that is a Christmas day for me, and it was spent like all alone. Was like maybe the best Christmas I've ever had. And I can't pinpoint why, that seems odd. But it was just a day that I just felt maybe connected to myself. There was no noise around, and so it was just me and really just having inner dialogue conversations with me, just in like I always do. And then I was watching Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and I think at the time I was trying to decide like what I was going to do as like a career, or as what part of filmmaking was I going to do. I knew I wanted to do movies. I knew I wanted to be a part of movies, filmmaking. And I was doing camera stuff, but it was what do I want to do with this? And is it cinematography? Is it editing? Is it post-production, color grading and correction? I was still kind of playing around with a lot of those things, but mainly shooting. And in watching Walter Mitty, and as the credits were rolling, it was just as clear as day that it was time for me to take the leap of faith and go all in cinematography. and I just felt so in tune with myself. It was like the inner being and the outer being had made alignment, and everything made sense. Everything was clear, everything was calm, and I just was so inspired by that movie. I mean, the cinematography in it is beautiful, but more so the story. Walter,
Well, give us a run. Like, what is for people that may have seen this, because it's an older movie, and I wouldn't call it it's popular, but it's probably not as well known as like other movies. Like, if you had to give like a rundown of just a very brief, like, post note version of what the story is, what is the story of Walter Mitty?
yeah, the story of Walter Mitty it's a bit of an odd one. You have a character who just lives a very mundane life, does the same thing in and out every single day, is very meticulous, very plain, and is in a way stuck in their ways, but dreams of a bigger life for themselves, but doesn't think it's attainable, can't really imagine the real world matching up with their dream world or their fantasy world of who they are, what they want to do. So in a way, it's kind of a becoming of age story, even though it's an adult male, an adult human being, but really becoming and stepping into who Walter is underneath it all. Like the core of Walter, the thing that makes him tick. So it's him discovering the meaning of life, like as a whole, but also for himself. And it's his journey in how that takes place and who Walter becomes.
This movie, I rewatched it recently on YouTube TV, and so I probably watched it. I probably watched it 8 or 9 years ago before I really started to like travel, and so a lot of the experience that Walter had, I really couldn't resonate with. Like, I thought it was a cool adventure of what he was doing, but just watching his journey of how, like, the first thing is just that I thought of while watching this movie is just the sound of an airplane. One of my favorite things to do, like in my life, I have this jacuzzi in my apartment complex where I just like to sit and listen to I'm right in the path of the airport, of hearing planes coming back and landing in Salt Lake, and I love the sound of an airplane just because it makes me think of like, why are these people coming here? Where are they coming back from? What's their story? What kind of because like travel is not a cheap hobby. Like, you really have to just. Like his Walter's flight to Greenland, I think is the first place that he went.
Yeah.
That had to have been a $1,500 flight. Like, I know the airline didn't look like it was that great, but to get to where he was going, I imagine it was a pretty good chunk of change. And so when people travel, like, they make an investment either, I think, in themselves or in other people. And so I think it's like just every time I've stepped on an airplane to go to a place, it's not my own home, it's to see someone I love, it's to experience something new, it's to just have my horizons open in some kind of experience. And so one of my favorite things is to listen to the airplane and think about the people on the plane. Just kind of imagine, just kind of go maybe like a world where Walter goes of what stories are coming back on that airplane. What kind of experience did the people just have? Did they just say goodbye to a loved one? Are they coming to see a loved one? Where did they just come back from? Mount Everest or a war zone? Or did they just go hang out with the crocodiles? I don't know, in Florida. You just don't know. And I was thinking about it because after I watched that movie and I went and sat in the jacuzzi, I was thinking of like someone like Walter Mitty. Like, what person on this airplane flying above me took a leap of faith because they've been living a mundane life for potentially 20 years. They get no hits on their dating profile. They have nothing, just like Walter Mitty. And they were like, you know what? I'm going to go ski in Colorado, or I'm going to go hike in the Andes down in Uruguay or something. They took that trip and now they're coming back as a totally changed person. And that was the first thing I thought of, is just the stories of people on airplanes and just how travel impacted Walter Mitty.
Yeah, and travel was a huge aspect of it, but travel was just a vehicle. It wasn't like the gasoline that fueled that. However, he still needed that to get to where he was going, right? And so travel has been that way for me, like in my life as well. And I mean, I can get into this a little bit later, but I did a trip to Iceland and I went to all of the places they filmed Walter Mitty, and I lined up my camera and I got the same shots and the same things, you know. But I can talk about that a little bit later. But as you were talking and I was thinking more about, what is Walter Mitty about? I think one of the things I just really love and I relate with Walter Mitty is I just don't fit in a corporate world. I don't fit in a 9 to 5. I just don't fit, and I've tried to. There have been times when I've attempted that, which is the system that basically we're all funneled into, right? And you dress the same, you dress the same, you act the same, you do the same, right? You just fall in line, you know. And here Walter was working for Time magazine, Life magazine, and he was a negative assets manager. And it was like, the pictures come in, you splice them, you develop them, you post them, you rinse and repeat. The same thing day in and day out. And to a point when, and for people that like that and need that, that's fantastic, right? Walter wasn't one of those people. I'm not one of those people. And Walter hits a breaking point, right? But the thing that I related with him was just being tired of pretending to be someone you're not and chasing someone else's dream, building someone else's dream, living someone else's dream. And to me, it was like, fuck that. I want to live my dream. I want to live my life by my rules and experience all that life has to offer me. And I've gone in waves with how well I've done that. But I think one of the first, I was hooked in Walter Mitty from the beginning as a character, because it opens up and he's sitting in his room, and everything's picture perfect. Everything's lined up. The whole aspect of how we're introduced to Walter is it's very plain, and it's very dull. Colors are dull. Structure is, it's all routine, and it's plain, and it's order, and it's organized. And then it's line by line, right? He's filling out his checkbook, and it's just fall in line by line. And all of these things, which are just really great choices that Ben Stiller has to introduce this character. And then it gets into the first part of where he's stepping out of his comfort zone, and it's like, I want some excitement in my life, and that results in the want of having a partner, right? So he's on this dating profile, and he
got no hits.
No hits. Cheryl Melhoff.
Yes.
Played by the incredible Kirsten Wiig, and she's so good in this. But he's looking at her, and he's like liking what he's seeing, and he's hovering over this like button. And he's just like, do I do this? Do I not do this? I want to do this. And then he walks away, and he's looking at it, and then he's like, yeah, I think I want to do this. But there's all these things running through his mind, but it's silent. And all of the things that's running through his mind is actually the things that are running through your mind as an audience, which is a brilliant choice from Mr. Stiller. So good, because every single human being has been in that situation.
Oh, yeah, even still.
And why it's so relatable is because he doesn't put words into your head. Your words already fill your head, and he's just showing you someone that's living this out, but you're projecting all of your own thoughts into this character. So then it becomes you as the main character in the film. And he then goes, like, and it's like, oh, the relief. I stepped out on a ledge, you know, and then error.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
like,
no.
it's like, what? Like, like, and then he's like pissed, right? And it's relatable because there's so many things that we finally build the courage to do or step out or say something, and then we're met immediately with a, and it doesn't play out the way we thought it would. We fantasize about these things, the careers we're going to have, the people we're going to date or meet, whatever it is, right? We romanticize these ideas, and they play out a certain way in our head, the stories we tell ourselves, because we're all like dreamers and imaginers to a degree, and then comes along, and it throws us off. It's like, what? That's not supposed to happen like that. This always happens to me. Like, it never goes right. So why do I even try, right? And that is like, that's Walter's life up until that point, right? And I was hooked, because I was like,
That's my guy.
that's like me.
Yeah.
I feel like this is my story. And then it just takes off, right? And then it's his journey throughout. And then shortly after that, he's on the phone, right, talking to eHarmony.
Yeah.
And then he has his first daydream, right? And that was just like my daydreams, like just these crazy things. And I would just zone out. I would zone out all the time. And I was like, my gosh, this is me. I'm fucking Walter Mitty.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really feel like understood or seen. And then here's Walter Mitty, and I'm like,
That's my guy.
that's my guy.
Uh-huh.
So that I just got lured in so quick, you know, and then just following it. It was just a story of liberation for self, for me, and just so inspiring, and just an incredible message to really, like, the thesis of the film is the life motto. To see the world, things dangerous to come to feel, to draw closer, that is the purpose of life. I think I got that right. And I've tried to live my life on that, you know. Now I just want to double check that and make sure that I got that. To see the world, things dangerous to come to see behind walls, I miss that. To draw closer, to find each other, I miss that. And to feel, that is the purpose of life. But that's the whole journey. That's the whole thesis of the film, is that. And so I've just tried to interject that into everything I do. And when I forget, I like to go back and watch Walter. And watching it this last time, the other night, I was so fascinated, because I've seen this movie a lot. I've done papers on it. I've broken down scenes. I did a whole essay in my master's program at film school over it. And there's something I pick up on every time, and everything is so meticulously planned, the details. There's nothing that is not intentional in the storytelling in Walter Mitty. I mean, for example, one of my favorite things, and it happens multiple times in this film. If you haven't seen The Matrix, there's the classic Morpheus, red pill, blue pill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blue pill, take the blue pill if you just want to keep doing what you're doing.
The routine, the ignorance, the bliss.
Yep, just go on living a blind life and being content with mediocrity. Or take the red pill, and open up your mind and see the world in a new way as it really is and see how far the rabbit hole goes. And when Walter lands in Greenland, in Nook, for the first time, he talks to the guy and he's like, "Hi." And he's like, "I'd like a car." He's like, "We have a red one and we have a blue one." Mm-hmm. And then it shows the red and the blue car. And here it is. It's this red and blue choice, right?
Oh, that's interesting. I never picked up on that.
It's this red and blue choice. And it's like, okay, Walter, you started to take the red pill. Are you going to continue seeing how far the rabbit hole goes, or are you going to live a mundane life? He chooses the red car, right? Starts driving around the red car. Later in the film, when he's hiking the Himalayas with his two Sherpas, and they're hiking up the mountain, he's in an all red jacket, and they're wearing all blue. And they get to this point of the mountain, and they start doing this funny thing like, me, continue, you, continue, and they go, us, go back, you, continue, and they go back and forth, right? But still, it's a choice. Am I going to go back to living this mundane life, or am I going to take the red pill and see how far the rabbit hole goes? They go back, and they're all in blue. He goes forward, and he's all in red. And it's just these little details that play into this idea of making the choice and committing to the unknown and stepping forward just in self-discovery. And it's so good. It's so good.
I don't think he ever returned that car. Speaking of that, I'm thinking of he picked the red car, but he jumped on a helicopter to get off of Greenland. That car never got returned.
No.
Huh. Dang. That would probably bug him for the rest of his journey. If he hadn't have just gone through this old transformational change of not sweating those little details. The guy who rented the car might sweat those details, but Walter, he's like, nope, just leave it at this bar, and I'm gonna get on this helicopter.
Yeah. So, anyways, there's those things. I mean, I have a bunch of notes, but
while we're on this him hopping on the helicopter scene, that scene, God, I was watching it, it probably touched me more than any other scene in the whole movie, and I'll tell you why. Because especially now, there's the TikTok ban is potentially coming. Facebook is cleaning up some of its things it has issues with. I'm not saying that social media is good by any means, but the guy at the helicopter asked him this question. He's like, "Walter, how do I keep in touch with you?" And I was like, God, that's a beautiful thing. Because it's these two people have no reason to be connected at this moment. Walter is some middle management corporate stooge, essentially, in what city are they in? In the States? Some city.
New York.
New York. He's a corporate stooge in New York. He is a guy that delivers mail to the fishing boats from Greenland. These two people, in any other life, would have never have connected. And because the way the world has evolved, with one, just social media, being able to connect with people, and travel, the accessibility of, traveling on an airplane is the worst, I believe, the worst experience of the traveling experience. The long flights, the crappy food, the turbulence, all these different things. But it's a necessary evil to get to the places where you want to go explore. And so he gets there and he has this connection with this person where he jumps on his helicopter and they well, how do I stay in touch with you, Walter Mitty? I just thinking about my own social media to where there's people on there and there's people in there that I have no reason for meeting in any other life. In my social media, I was going through, I have this 82-year-old woman who I met in the Dominican Republic who sells milk from this cow she keeps in the back of her house. And she's my friend on social media, so I get to see updates on how her cow is doing and how the birthing that it does to replace the cow and how she sells the cow. I have a soldier in the Colombian army that he's been a soldier for 35 years. He's getting ready to retire, and he's been in all these narco wars and these civil wars. There's someone who, there's a girl from Ukraine that I remember I was texting her on an airplane while she was fleeing her apartment because it was in the bombing zone when Putin first invaded Ukraine and invaded Kyiv. And I think like social media, I'm not saying it's all good, but man, it has its benefits. So just even like just see what people are up to, see these people that you've connected with throughout life. Like there's people that I met like in the Dominican Republic 15, 16 years ago that I haven't talked to for a long time, but I see their pictures, I see their families grow. Leave them a like, leave them a comment, just to know that they're okay. And that moment between that helicopter pilot and Walter of like, how do I stay in touch with you? Where they've had this connection, and he's impressed enough by Walter's balls to be like, I like this middle management stooge from New York. I want to stay in touch with him and just I want to follow his journey. And I just thought it was such a beautiful human moment between two people that are from two different parts of the world, two different life experiences, but they connect this moment, and because of like our connection as a human family, this helicopter pilot wants to stay in touch with Walter. I was so touched by that moment.
Dude, well, and if you think about that as well, and we don't see what that relationship ends up being, right? We don't see how they stayed in touch. We don't see but we can imagine what it's like, right? But it never would have happened if he wouldn't have jumped on to the helicopter with a drunken pilot.
Yep. That's another thing in my notes I have is I was watching this. There was a point where, see, I completely missed what you just described because that's exactly what happened because I was so focused on like that human connection they had. But not 10 minutes later, I put this in my notes to where this guy, this middle management stooge from New York, is trying to outrun a bunch of Chileans to get to a bike. So he can bike his way to some volcano, ends up getting a skateboard in Iceland. And the adventure that he had, like, you know that scene in Lord of the Rings where, I don't remember if it's The Hobbit or if it's Lord of the Rings. This is going to sound terrible because we just talked about this a few weeks ago, where it's like the stepping out of your door, and you never know what kind of adventures you're going to get into. I think that's a Fellowship of the Ring, where Bilbo tells Frodo, like, you step out your door, you have no idea what's going to happen. Like, he went to go find this negative, right? And 3 years later, he's trying to outrun a bunch of Chileans for the only bicycle so that he can get to his friend who's taking these pictures in time to where they don't miss each other. I'm like, what a hell of an adventure. Yeah. Like, the stuff that when you leave your door, when you go out into the world, when you get out of your comfort zone, like, you have no idea the type of shit you're going to get into. No idea. And it's, like, it makes it fun. It makes the adventure fun. And I was thinking, like, just in the notes that I had on this podcast of, like, well, what has happened to me when I decided to travel? The experience that I was thinking of is when we were doing this case in Mexico, and someone linked that we were the good guys and not the bad guys. And so I spent 3 hours running from Cozumel, Mexico, back to Cancun airport to try to get on the last Delta flight home because these guys were looking for us. Running from the cartels, trying to get to this last plane, trying to get back home. And in the moment, that was really scary because we had to get on 2 boats. We had to get a COVID test. It's like one of those instant COVID tests. This was during COVID. But in hindsight, man, it's a hell of a story.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a story, and it wouldn't have happened. Not saying that this is how all your travels are going to go. But when you step out of your door, you really do. Like the experiences that you might have, the connections that you might have, you have no idea like how they're going to impact you as a person, how they're going to impact your soul, your being, and you just don't know what kind of shit you're going to get up to. Like, jump on a helicopter with a drunken-ass pilot. Like, that takes some balls. Yeah. And describing that without any kind of context to, like, Walter's family back home, they probably would have shit their pants. Same thing of, like, yeah, these Chileans and me were running for this bike so that I could go get to this volcano that's erupting so I get this negative, but I got this skateboard along the way. Like, you tell that to somebody. That's why his dating profile was blowing up, because this eHarmony guy was taking bits and pieces of the story and making it sound like, I mean, it was real. So, like, those moments were just, I wrote that down of just stepping outside of your door, which Walter Mitty did, and the bravery it took to do that. Because, I mean, he's going to lose his job no matter what. Like, what does he benefit from any of this? Yeah. But he has a connection with this photographer he's never met. They're connected emotionally, albeit they've never been able to connect personally. And he wants to honor his work. And so he takes the step, both the courage and the financial step, to make this happen. And when I was watching this movie and he's running down the bike, I was like, this was not on his list of things to do. No. But, man, what a hell of a story.
Well, and it's those things, it's those details, right? What's what I love filmmaking is it's like, how do you photograph an idea, right? How do you photograph love? How do you photograph hope? You're trying to take this idea and then make it a tangible thing that an audience can take visually and digest, right? And so, I mean, again, it's just so brilliant, like the attention to details. You take a photo negative, right? And it gets lost, right? So it's a negative event that has occurred, but it's literally a negative of a photo. And so it's taking the idea of something negative and trying to find the positive out of it. And so it's literally flipping it, right? And it's those little details where it's like we are taking a negative experience, but it's actually from the negative of a film photo, and then we're going to make something beautiful out of it. And it's now we have this negative that when you look at a negative, it's not beautiful, but when it's developed, when it goes through the process and all of the steps that it takes, and it's an immersive process. It's not just a simple process. Like, it's immersive, and it has to go through all of these things for it to develop. And that's Walter.
Yeah.
And so it's this object and this human being that's going on this process of development until it reaches its pinnacle and beautiful representation of what it is.
Because it is beautiful. Like,
It
another
is.
thing that I've noticed, like, when I watch this movie is that how he gets gradually more attractive as the movie goes on. Like, he's less of, like, the shirt tucked in and just, I don't want to, just, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He's more chill. He's got like a Pakistan shirt on. He's got like a half beard. He's more confident, like, in himself. You can tell, just like in the way that he looks at people, that he's seen things, he's seen the world. And the relationship, I think, is really... It's kind of beautiful is his relationship with the eHarmony guy. Because eHarmony, that guy would drive me nuts. If that guy was calling me nonstop and not texting me and not leaving me voicemails, I had to answer his message while I'm climbing a volcano, man, that guy would drive me nuts. But as the movie goes on, I'm just realizing, just talking through this with you, there's a relationship between Walter and the photographer, right? And Walter, in a sense, is kind of living vicariously through the photographer. And as the movie goes on, Walter then becomes the badass, right? And this eHarmony guy is kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the shit that you're doing right now. You're amazing. You're swimming with sharks by accident. You're climbing a volcano. You're hiking the Himalayas. And when they connect, it's the eHarmony guy looks at Walter the way that Walter looked at this photographer for 20 years. And you just wonder, like, if there was like a secret life of Walter Mitty 2, what is this guy doing? What's the eHarmony guy doing? What did he take away from his experience with Walter to be like, you know what? I've worked at eHarmony for 20 years. I'm gonna take a trip. I'm gonna use all the credit card miles I've saved up. I'm gonna book a one-way trip to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and let's see what happens. And like, what happened to him because of his reaction or his experience with Walter Mitty and seeing Walter being transformed throughout this process? Like, what kind of impact? I always wonder.
Yeah.
What it had on the eHarmony guy.
Yeah. Well, and kind of going back to the earlier conversation of this relationship with the pilot and just even the eHarmony guy and everyone else in between, right? There are individuals and things that will come into our lives that will play a role or benefit us, right? But unless we take that step, unless we put ourselves... But here's what is so good about the representation of the storytelling in this, right? It's not just taking a step. It's not just hopping on a helicopter to fly over the ocean, right? To see if you can get on a boat, right? That in and of itself is an adventure. Now, add it's stormy and it's a drunk pilot. So it is not safe. It is not a safe move to make this choice, right? And the idea that it's representing here is if you play life safe, you won't experience the joys that life has to offer. And so Walter is constantly fighting this urge to play it safe. Play it safe. Do the easy thing. Because it's easy to do some. It's easier to do something that's different when it's still safe. But when it becomes unsafe, right? There's that quote that everyone says, like, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And as cliche as that is, like, there's a reality and a real life to that. And people say that because they've experienced it, right? And Walter's no different in this. And so I just love, it's the details of, he is showing an audience, there is nothing smart logically or safe logically about what I'm going to do. But there's a feeling inside me that is telling me to keep going and don't look back. And if you follow that shit, it will lead you to everything you could have ever wanted in life. And it's done it for me, and I know it will continue. And I still fight those things. I still fight, like, wanting to play it safe sometimes, or not going out of my comfort zone. Even knowing that if I were, what potentially is on the other side of that. So I love that. And then the other thing is, like, leading. So that scene of when he jumps out onto the water from the plane, like, I just took a bunch of notes on that because I just thought, wow, like, am I reading in too much of this? Like, am I thinking too much into this of what the filmmakers are trying to do? Or have I unlocked another layer that Ben Stiller has gone, here's what I want. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. So, okay, now he jumps in the plane, and now he jumps out of the plane, right? And he jumps out into the water, right? So now he is completely out of his comfort zone, and he's in the elements. And then he sees a fin, right? And his instincts say, oh shit, that's a shark, right? That's his instincts. And everyone else around him goes, no, it's a porpoise, it's a porpoise. And he's like, no, I think it's a shark. And all these voices are going, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. But inside he knows something's not right. Yep. And then I wrote down this quote. You have the old man, and he's like, don't fear the porpoise. But, like, it almost sounds like purpose. Don't fear the purpose. And then he goes, be friendly towards it. It will protect you from the sharks. Stop. And then when he goes, oh shit, it's a shark. He goes, stop befriending it. Fight it. Kill it. Yeah. Right? And it's this whole thing of when you are in life and it becomes and you have gone as far as you've ever gone before, and you're like head underwater, like you are treading water. Everyone else around you is going to look at you and go, like, stop. Like, what your instincts are telling you is wrong, right? That's not a shark. But inside you go, no, like, there's still this thing inside of me that's telling me this. And there's going to be voices surrounding you, fighting you. And you just have to trust your instincts. You just have to trust it. It's the one gift that God has given you that no one can take away from you unless you give it to them. And that is your internal like gut feeling that will lead you and guide you, like, to your purpose, right? And don't fear the purpose. Like, be friendly towards it. But when you recognize things for what they really are, don't be friendly towards it. Fight it and kill it, right? And it's interesting. I mean, you could take that on a lot of different directions, like people that you love and that are friends, that you're friends with, that don't agree with the life you now want to live, or a direction you want to pursue, right? And they're holding you back from your potential, right? For whatever reason. But it's your life. It's not their life. At the end of the day, when you go to bed, you don't go to bed dreaming in their world. You go to bed dreaming in your world, right? So there's going to be times when you just need to cut ties with things, with people, whatever, that are trying to make you feel comfortable and go back to what is safe, right? So I just love that whole thing, and I'm like, man, wow, I've never really seen this scene like that before. But like the whole thesis and the idea of this is like, no, like trust what got you here, because if you turn back now, you're gonna if you listen to those voices, you're gonna be eaten by this shark. Like it's gonna kill you, but don't listen to your instincts and just keep going.
I really like that scene. I think is one thing I really liked about this movie is just how I think a lot of us have this perception that the world is a very scary and dangerous place, and it is. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some bad people out there looking to do some bad things to good people, but for the most part, all of us humans are the same. We want connection. We want a good cup of coffee. We want love. We want to help each other out. And I think that was really sprinkled throughout this movie of just how travel can make you travel and really embracing yourself with these people all over the world can make just you a more compassionate human being. Like Pakistan, for example, post 9/11, I just assumed that Pakistan and Afghanistan were just full of terrorists, and that all those people just wanted us all dead. Until I met my first Afghani, and I listened to her talk about how she just loves her family, how she loves America, how she's just looking to be safe and to go to school. And I was like, wait, meeting you is kind of flipping everything on my head of like what I assumed that you people were like. And so, with Walter, Pakistan specific, like he plays soccer with like a bunch of Pakistani kids to where it made him more aware, it made him more compassionate, and when politicians start fights that could affect the people that he's played soccer with, like he can raise his voice of like they actually aren't all terrorists and there's some good people there. They're just caught in a system that really sucks. And so I think the places that he visited matter.
Yeah.
And to think that the places that he visited in this movie, not only like personally, but for like the internal places he visited, but also the external places matter too. And for me, nothing gets me on board with something faster than like, oh, well, Joe and Ellie spent some time in Cody, Wyoming. I'm like, fucking Cody? I've been there. Like, yeah, let's do it. Like, what do you guys got going on? And so, like, just an instant, like, okay, these, like, I'm in. I want to see what they're doing. I want to see what they're all about. And with you, I know how important Iceland is for your story. And so obviously when he goes, I didn't even know that you took like the same picture like when you were there. But I had a question for you specifically, like what part of his travel resonated with you most, but I think I already know the answer. So if I'm wrong, correct me.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's Iceland.
Sorry, I'm not sure
So in all of the adventures that he took throughout this movie, the one that you were most invested in emotionally was probably Iceland?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I was right on that. I was
yeah.
right on that. I want that written down as some of you are taking notes. I was right again. And I want to know...
I should have worn my Iceland beanie, bro.
Yeah, you should have.
What am I thinking?
Missed opportunity. Next time, you can wear the Iceland beanie during Arcane. It will have the same effect. But, so I'm assuming that the part of his travels, his adventure that resonated with you was Iceland. I was right. Why did that resonate with you? Tell me about your trip to Iceland and why Iceland plays such an important part of your story like it does in the story of Walter.
Sure, yeah. I'm going to answer that. I just want to go through a few more notes in my thing that just kind of piggy off the previous dialogue we were having, right? So throughout the film, there's all these different experiences, and in Iceland, there's this volcano, right? And the volcano, you have you have everyone that is running away from the volcano, right? And then you have Sean O'Connell, who is on an airplane going straight into that bitch. Like,
I was like, what is he
standing on top of the wings of this plane, right? Just going full into it, right? And it's just so epic. And Walter's like, dude, that guy lives the life I want to live. Like, that's Sean, right? That's the work I have watched my whole life. And he's like, I got to follow Sean into the volcano. So anyways, he goes, right? But the thing that really quick that I picked up about this is like the volcano erupts, right? And there's this massive ash cloud. And now they're trying to get out of the volcano. But the ash cloud envelops them, and then it just goes completely dark, right? And then it cuts, and then they're driving, and their car's full of ash, and the windshield is going or whatever. But the thing that I thought was interesting about that is there are going to be times in our journeys, there's going to be time in our lives in self-discovery where we're going to be enveloped in darkness, where we're not going to have a clear vision of what's next, and it's just going to completely envelop us, and we're going to feel lost. And this is an important part where that contrasts a little what I was saying earlier of like you've got to listen into the voice of your inner voice and shut out all of these other voices telling you something. But there are voices outside of you that are good voices and friendly voices and helpful voices, right? And so this whole idea of this scene is that Walter did need to rely on this person who lives in this environment, knows the realities of the situation, and goes, you can't stay here, you can't go to the volcano, we have to leave. And so Walter relies on him in that moment, which ultimately saves him, right? So there are times in our journey when it is a journey of self-discovery where we do need to rely on other people. We do need to rely on other things to help us when we get completely enveloped in darkness. And that was a nice touch that I thought that Ben had in his journey. And then a couple other things. Then we'll get into that. Is the Papa Johns, right? So we didn't know a whole lot of who Walter was as a kid, but we got a little bit. He had a mohawk and he was a skateboarder, right? So he lived a life he wanted to live, right? And it was who he was on the inside. And then shit happened. His dad died. And he had to grow up. He had to stop being a kid. And that is the moment where I think a lot of people lose that inner child of freedom and dreaming when they have to grow up. And there are events and things in lives that happen that rock our worlds and cause us to just shut down and survive, right? And that's okay. We don't have to beat ourselves up about it. But we don't have to stay there either. We can go back to that. We can step back into those shoes, you know. And occasionally when we're on our journey and we're starting to become, there's going to be little things that pop up that remind us of those things that might make us want to shrink a little bit. And that was when he ran into Papa John's in Iceland, which was the reminder of his father, because it was the first job he had to get after his dad died, so he could then start taking care of him and his family, right, as a kid. And so there are those things that are going to pop up in our journeys that are going to kind of like level us a little bit and remind us like there's a reality that still exists, and it's going to be a draw to go backwards, to go back to, well, this is reality. Like, this is the life I have to live. I have to have a job. I have to just go back and do these same things. But he talks to Cheryl, right? But the thing is, he leaves. He has to leave. He removes himself from Papa John's. And that's the thing. You have to remove yourself from those thoughts. You have to remove yourself from those events or people or things that want to pull you back into another way, your old lifestyle of living, your old habits. Because if you don't, you're going to get sucked right back into it. So easy and so fast. And then the second time that represents this is when he's back and he's going to deliver that skateboard to Rich. I think his name is Rich.
The little guy.
The little kid, right? And he knocks on the door, and who opens it? Well, it's Cheryl's ex.
Yeah.
And Walter's a dreamer, dude. He like imagines and he tells himself these grand stories, right? And he sees the ex-husband back at Cheryl's house, and he's like, oh, fuck.
Yep.
And he freaks out.
Yep.
And what does he do? He runs.
And he has the same kind of run he had before.
Yes.
The awkward run.
Yes. And he runs, right? He doesn't stand and face the fear. He runs away from it. And then he gets into the taxi, and he's driving away, and he's in his head again, right? He's starting to daydream again. And he had stopped daydreaming. But he started telling him these grand stories, and there's this thing on the TV, and it's like, well, tell me about your love life. Like, there's a little controversy, like a little affair. And he's like to the driver, hey, turn this off. And he's like, it stays on. And then he's like, then I'm getting out. And it's like he stops the dialogue in his head. A dialogue that has come and tried to intrude on him time and time again and tell him these fantasies and these stories that just aren't true, that lead him into a worse place. But he goes, no, I'm stopping this. So he gets out and he removes himself. And like, that's showing the growth and progression of Walter in his journey, and like the journey in our lives. There's going to be times when we start thinking the same things we used to think. The inner dialogue, the stories, the fantasies that we tell ourselves, and we just have to stop it. And this is me. I have so many voices in my head, like my own voices that are making up these stories about things that are happening with people or whatever. And I just have to go, it's not real. Stop. And if it won't stop, I have to get out and I do something else. Otherwise, I get locked back in. And so there's just these things that were just showing the growth of Walter and just this journey of life, that these things are going to happen on this journey, and here's the way out of them. And so it was just so well crafted and well done that just helped me remind me of those things of like, no, I have the power to stop. I have the power to change the voice in my head and remove myself from it when it's negative, you know? So I really, really like those things. And then going back to your question about Iceland, what about it? I mean, I remember the question, but restate it one more time.
Yeah. So first one, which I was right on, was the part of Walter's journey that was his travels that most impacted you, and how since I've met you, I know that Iceland has been a destination for you. You've been there. You've told me about it. You've wanted to go back. Why is Iceland so key to your own story? Out of all places in the world, why Iceland? And it's like, what kind of role does it have in what makes Sam?
Yeah, you know.
And then tell us about the trip if you have anything you want to tell about the trip.
Yeah, like I don't know what year it was, 2018 maybe, end of 2017, maybe somewhere in 2018. I had this dream, and I woke up from it, and it was more than a dream. And it was so specific and so vivid, and it was like, just go, like, it was like Iceland calling me. It was like that photo of Sean Penn when Walter looks at him and he just, You know,
Yes.
it was like that. It was just I was just so drawn in, and
Was it Sean Penn doing it for you, or was it somebody else?
no, it was just like the dream, like
Okay.
right, like that moment of that was like the same feeling I got with Iceland in my dream, right? It was just like, come. And so, like years later, not years, but a few years later, I guess 2022 maybe, I took a trip to Iceland, and I was there for 10 days, and it was just a time of like reflection, and I was just driving, like the first part of the trip I went with a friend of mine, and then the second part of the trip it was just me, and it was just a time of like, where am I going to go in my life from here? Like, what do I want to do? What do I want? And I was also on this journey of transforming myself mentally, spiritually, physically. Like, I was entering into my 30s, and I was like, I want to leave this decade behind. There was a lot of good, but there was a lot of things that I don't care for, and I want this new decade to be a new chapter in my story. And I'm going to start by taking this trip to Iceland and kicking that off. And when I was there, I was just so enveloped by like the beauty of the land and just the raw elements of the earth. For me, like if you're like a believer in Christianity and the idea and the creation of the world, Iceland to me felt like the creation of and the formation of the earth and the beginning of how it all happens. There was earth, fire, water, air, like all of the elements, just in its rawest form, its rawest power, like volcano, waterfall, just this beautiful landscape, and everywhere you went, it was just like you were on a new planet like 10 minutes later, and it was just magical. And it was the tail end of my trip, and I have this ring, which is the Lord of the Rings ring, right?
The Ring of Power.
The Ring of Power. And I've worn this for years, and it used to represent something different to me then, where like we all have a burden that we carry, right? And those burdens are ours to carry. And I was going to go throw this into the volcano, because there was a volcano that...
God, that's a badass story. Jeez, man. I didn't know this.
There's a volcano that erupted, right?
Yeah.
And there was lava flow. And I'm like, I'm going to go throw my burden, the representation of burden, into the fire and cleanse myself of this. And I'm going to start a new chapter.
And then you said, no.
So I get there, and I go to the volcano, and it's hardened. Like, the ground is still hot and warm. It's steaming. But like the lava surface, like it's crusted over, and so there's
Nowhere to chuck it.
nowhere to throw it. And I'm like, fuck.
Dang.
I took this journey all this way to get here to throw this into the fire.
Okay, sealed door, and it's like, oh.
It's not there. So I hold on to it, right? And I'm like, well, I'll figure out another thing. I'll figure out another solution, or maybe I'll come back. I don't know. So then I am traveling around the island, and I'm doing the full thing, and I get to a place called Godafoss, which is interpreted as Waterfall of the Gods. And it's almost like a circle, but it's not a complete circle, but it's like a semicircle of water that's falling into this area that is the rivers are flowing, and then it falls into this, and then the river continues to flow, right? But it's excuse me, it's magnificent. And you can kind of like crawl down into it and get to the base of it, and it's just this roar. It's just, but it's so peaceful. And I'm like, oh, this is where I'm going to throw this in. And so I took out my ring, and I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, and I'm trying to get to that point of what does this represent, right? And it's letting go of things that no longer serve me. It's letting go of things that no longer move me in the direction that I want to go. Anything in my life that isn't moving me forward, like, it has to go. So I take it out and I throw it into the water, throw it into the thing, right? And then I just sit with it for a little while. But I had bought a second one because I like wearing it. It looks good.
Another ring was made.
Right? Another ring was formed.
Another ring was made. Yep.
And
the waters of Iceland.
And I put it on, and I'm like, well, what does this represent to me? And it was, if the other thing represented like the burdens that I carried and the things that held me back, like this ring reminds me to no longer hold on to the things that stop me from moving forward. And it's a reminder to always keep moving forward and forgiving myself of the past and everything in it that hasn't served me, and knowing that like that burden doesn't have to burden me anymore, and I can move forward and start like a new chapter of Sam. And that was it. And that was a very like special day in Iceland. And I wear it, and I every time I wear it I just think, okay, like, what's holding you back? Let it go, you know? Remove yourself from this. Don't get involved. Don't, whatever it is, right? It's just a constant reminder to like not go back to what was easy and familiar and recognizable and just a pattern. And it's, no, this is a new you, and it doesn't have to be defined by what you once were, and the future is not written. It's today. And so that's this.
And do you also have some Viking in your blood?
I do.
Is that where you're, okay.
Yep,
Okay,
yep, Viking in my blood.
My bad, jumped the gun. Go ahead. You got
So-
the
so
second
anyways.
necklace there today.
Well, anyways, and this is Thor's hammer. Like, this is Mjolnir, just Norse mythology. Anyways, got this when I was in Iceland, just as another piece of like carrying Iceland with me.
Cool.
And Iceland will always have like Iceland will always be a part of me. Like, and I will always be a part of Iceland.
God, that's awesome. Yeah, I figured another thing was like just the adventures that you have while traveling, and traveling to Iceland, the Chuckarina volcano. It's a pretty badass story that would have never have happened if you hadn't like got out of your comfort zone and you went. So I think the whole, just everything you said is just so beautiful, and it's so I can see why the movie like resonated with you so much, and you like as an artist. The last scene too, the very last scene of the movie, I was really touched by. Not so much like him and the girl like finally like held hands and stuff, but the magazine, to where obviously you knew that Walter admired the photographer. I forget his name. What's his name?
Sean O'Connell.
Sean, for a long time. But based on that picture, you could also tell that Sean really admired Walter from afar too. They had different. I think Sean maybe recognized a little bit more than Walter, but like my work doesn't happen without you. And I was really touched by that movie. I thought of you because this is your favorite movie, and just how as an artist, like you appreciate the people that help make your images come to life. and I like is someone who does what I do. Like one of my heroes and someone that I think will go and change more lives than anybody else in this whole world is a guy that actually he does striping for like airports and highways. He just makes sure that the lines are, you can see them at night and they're yellow and they're white. Just a striping company that work on roads. And that guy, because of his generosity, him and his wife have probably saved more kids than any other donor that I have. And I'm the one that gets to like travel. I'm the one that gets to be interviewed by the Wall Street Journal. I'm the one that not so much riding on an airplane going to the volcano, but the one that is traveling, having these experiences. But that work is not realized without the people like that are making these dreams come to life. So that last scene I was just so touched by, because while Walter may have seen himself as kind of boring and that his daydreams were more exciting than his real life, Sean saw him as a vital part of what he did, and without him, his dreams of art and of the world seeing these experiences he's having and capturing just the beauty of these snow leopards doesn't happen without Walter Mitty and his commitment to his job. And so that last scene, I was very touched by, because you just saw that Sean admired Walter just as much as Walter admired Sean.
Oh yeah, man, and like you said, like it is. There are other people that we need. There are other things that we need that help us make us who we are, and it's important to remember that. And we might be, and there might be times when we're living in our mundane cycles or whatever, right? But there's still magic that we're making, and other people can see that. Sean saw that in Walter. Walter just didn't see it in himself yet. But it was this journey that Sean unintentionally invited Walter out on to come find it, right? And that moment with Sean and Walter on the top of the mountain, and he's like, Sean, I lost the image, and he was like, well, I put it in the wallet. And he's like, you put it in what?
You better be reimbursing me for this.
He's like, I put it in the wallet. I told you to look inside. And I mean, it's so right. Look inside. Look, right. But the message behind that is like he was inviting Walter to look inside himself. Everything that he ever wanted, everything that he ever needed was already within himself. It was already inside. And that's the message, right?
Yeah.
It's everything that we've ever wanted or needed is it's already here. It's within us. But we have to look inside. We have to remove the layers. And it's not just one layer. He removed the layer, right? Then there was another layer, another flap, and then you had to open. Like, it's not just a one thing. Like, it's a constant removing of layers to get to the core of us. I have if I can find it, I was just reminded of it, and the stupid new iOS shit from Apple. Thanks a lot.
Apple, we do
Trash.
not want your.
This new iOS update is trash in terms of photo and whatever. I can't find anything.
Apple TV, we want your sponsorship, but we have opinions.
And I've been a lifelong user and fan, so
Me too.
don't get me wrong. I'm
not changing.
But I took a photo and I wrote this letter to myself. It was on my birthday, because I had my birthday in Iceland. I turned 30 in Iceland. To end a decade and start anew. And I wrote this letter to myself, this thing, and man, I'm like not gonna be able to find it. And I wish I would have thought of this earlier, but it just struck me.
Can you put it in the search bar of letter? Will it show up?
Well, it was a screenshot I took, and then I posted it.
On Instagram?
Yeah, on Instagram, which I don't have anymore.
He's got to get it back. Is it on your Facebook? You want me to check?
No, it's not on Facebook. Dang it. There was a whole other thing I wanted to talk about too, and now this is taking me away from that. Where would this be? If I can find it, I would really just like to read it on the podcast. But the other thing, while I'm looking for this, I'll just kind of ramble, is throughout this film, like, change is constantly happening. Remodeling is constantly happening. Life magazine is being remodeled. His mom's house, they're having to move. They're having to change, right? There's this constant. One thing about life that's constant is change, right? And if you stay the same, you're going to die. That's just the reality of it. And so I love the orchestration of all of that, of this change. And there's really things that we love and we're attached to, like the piano that they've been carrying around. But Mom, like, this is an important piano to you. Like, this is the piano that Dad got you, you know? And there's these things that we're attached to, but they prevent us from growing. They prevent us from living in new environments. And we have to let go of those things. We have to change. We have to embrace the remodel. And in all of that change, I love the Adam Scott in this movie as a dick is so fantastic. He is the biggest asshole. Mm-hmm. And I love it when at the end he delivers number 25 and he goes, "Hey man, like, I know you have your orders, I know you have your bosses, I know you have things that you do, but this thing that you do when you come in and you push everybody out, like, you don't have to be such a dick." And that's it, man.
Yep.
Like, you just,
It's a different Walter.
it's a different Walter. And it wasn't an aggressive, like, I'm going to kill you, I hate you, you're a dick. It just was like, "Hey man, this thing that you do, you don't have to live like this." And it was the thing that Walter has always wanted to tell himself, like, you don't have to live like this anymore. And he finally had the courage to say it because it was true for him. And he was like, he said it in a way that now, how has he changed? How has that guy changed moving forward? Right? Because Walter stepped into Walter.
Ben Stiller, Secret Life of Walter Mitty 2. Follow up on the eHarmony guy and follow up on the asshole. That guy's big now. He's in Severance. I saw that Severance 2 coming out. He's in Parks and Rec.
He's so good. He's so good.
He is good.
I wonder if my friend Braden, because he took a picture of it and he sent it to me. He was like, I'm gonna make sure you read this, because when I posted it, dude, no, I just wish I could find this. It breaks my heart. I thought I hearted it because I wanted it in my favorites.
Is it in your favorites?
I looked, but I can't.
Is it in your screenshots?
Oh.
Look in the screenshot folder, mate.
It might be in my screenshots.
Get it.
It might be. Let me just finish through this Iceland scroll. Okay, screenshots. Oh yeah, and then I want to finish on one more thing. While I'm doing that, while I'm looking for this, will you look up the lyrics to "Stay Alive" by Jose Gonzalez?
Yes. Stay alive, Jose Gonzalez. Stay alive.
I'm so bummed that
Got it.
I cannot find this. Oh, okay, it's got to be. If it's in the screenshots, it's got to be close.
I pushed pause on recording on the audio so you can
Okay.
find it.
Oh, I found it. I found it.
Ah. We paused the audio, but we're back. You found it. Wait, you want me to read the? What do you want me to do with these lyrics?
No, just have them ready because
Okay.
I'll talk about them next. So this is what I wrote to me on my 30th birthday. There, this was after I'd thrown
It's a locked off
the
exclusive.
ring, locked off exclusives.
Well, Instagram first, but his is gone, so now it's exclusive.
This is happy 30th, Sam. Your world is about to change, and a new life, is about to begin as an old life passes away. The last decade was meant to lead you to this new chapter as you've recently realized that you've already had everything that you've ever needed within you after all, and that is all that has ever mattered. People will come and people will go from your life, and you will be better for it. Experiences will continue to shape you and guide you. You will still mess up, and you will still succeed. Ultimately, your life and the next 10 years will entirely and completely be up to you. And the only thing that can stop you from that is yourself. So don't let anyone rob you of your dreams, especially yourself. Know that I love you. Fuck.
I think we're 4 for 4 on tears, bro.
Know that I love you and know you will be all right. Forgive yourself of the negative thoughts you have of yourself, and embrace the unknown and continue to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And finally, please know this: to let go, to entirely and completely let go, is to make available what is just waiting to be received, and you will find that you will gain everything you've ever looked for. I love you, man. Take care of yourself, and know that you are the hero of your story. Till Valhalla, your 40-year-old self, Sam.
Boom! What do you guys think of that? Dang, that was an awesome letter, bro.
So,
Has it been a while since you've read that?
yeah,
Dang.
I think I needed it, actually.
Ah, that was awesome. Dang, you just came with that as you were in Iceland?
Yeah.
Jeez, bro.
I mean, I had 10 days to
This
think.
is Sam Sargent, man. Locked Off Logic podcast. He's not going anywhere. Dang, that was cool, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's beautiful. And how you doing so far? You're in year 2 of the 30s?
2.5.
Cool.
2.5. And, good and bad. Progress in a lot of ways and digress in a lot of ways. But the thing I am hopeful about is, like, I know that the areas that I have digressed don't define me, and they don't have to continue being the rest of the decade. And I can continue to just take one day at a time and grow. So it's a good reminder. It's a good reminder for me to just go, no, remember what you set out to do. And even if it takes 2 decades, like, I don't care. Like, continue to let go of how it all will end up being the way I want it to be. Because if I do and just trust in the process and follow my instincts, it'll take me there. But the problem is control. Control is an illusion.
Well, I think, it's good to have that self-reflection. But from my point of view, I always, and I've told people this forever, you can ask anybody in our circle I've said this forever, is that you've always been a good example of me. Because one thing I wrote down is that, like, Walter is now living his life to the fullest. He's at a job, but he's trying it out with this girl he likes. He's doing his thing, traveling. He's doing his thing. You've always been someone that I view as, like, pursuing your dreams and living life to the fullest. Even though, like, I've always been a little bit jealous, where it's like, man, the balls on Sam Sargent to go to film school. Like, nothing's guaranteed in film school. It's much safer to go get an MBA or go get an MPA or become a lawyer or whatever. That's way more secure. But you were just like, no, I like cinema. I know how to work a camera. This is what I want to do. I'm going to take the risk and take out, I assume, a lot of debt that film school costs. Move to a place that's not your home and do your thing there. From afar, I'm always like, I don't know if I would have the guts to do that. Like, that is someone who is chasing, like, and not just chasing, but sprinting after their dreams in a way that I don't know if I've ever had the courage to do. So, I mean, obviously you saw when you started the movie, Walter and you. I saw the Sam that I know and the Walter at the end where, I mean, maybe you don't know, but I see someone who is pursuing what they want to do at full speed, and it's not just in your 30s. I've thought that ever since you went to film school. I'm just like, look at this motherfucker. Like he's just going after it, and I really admire it. I know the journey hasn't been easy. It probably won't be easy going forward, but I mean, you're sprinting toward what you want, and I think I really admire it. So I see you, Walter, at the end versus the beginning.
Well, thanks, man. Jen, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's been a journey, and I'm so grateful for it, the good and the bad. And it's good to reflect like this and to just take into account. And I guess right now I just feel a lot of gratitude. I just feel a lot of gratitude, you know. And I guess I'll close my thoughts on this with as the credits roll. In Walter Mitty, there's the song "Stay Alive" by Jose Gonzalez, and I pulled up the lyrics as well, but it's just the perfect end to Walter in this journey, and the lyrics. I mean, I probably won't read the whole thing, but there's a few things where it's like there's a rhythm and rush these days where the lights don't move and the colors don't fade, leaves you empty with nothing but dreams in a world gone shallow, in a world gone lean. And it's like that's like the start of Walter. And then sometimes there's things a man cannot know, the gears won't turn and the leaves won't grow. There's no place to run and no gasoline, engine won't turn and the train won't leave. Engines won't turn and the trains won't leave. I will stay with you tonight, hold you close till the morning light. In the morning watch a new day rise. We'll do whatever just to stay alive. We'll do whatever just to stay alive. Well, the way I fell is the way I write. It isn't like the thoughts of the man who lies. There is a truth, and it's on our side. Dawn is coming. Open your eyes. Look into the sun as the new days rise. And then it just continues. Look into the sun as the new day rise. And I just love that. I just love that. Dawn is coming. Open your eyes. And like ending, and I watched Walter Mitty again on New Year's Eve, and I started it so that it's at the end of the new year, and it ends and finishes in the new year when Walter is the new Walter.
Got it.
And I was just like, yeah, that's my motto for 2025 is dawn is coming. Just open your eyes.
Well, I love it, man. I learned a lot about this movie. I learned a lot about this discussion. Ben Stiller, great job. Please come on our show and talk about this. We'd love to chat with you about this if you're listening.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine, Ben? Come on in. Let's talk about it. You can correct us if we're thinking poorly, or just come on our show and let's hang out.
And I just want to give a huge shout out to Ben right now. The work that people know Ben as an actor.
Yeah.
Most people know Ben as an actor.
I know Ben from Dodgeball.
Yes, as a comedian, as a comic, right? And he is, and I think he's hilarious. But there is so much depth to Ben. And the dramas that he does, like Severance. Mm-hmm. Severance is a Ben Stiller child. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, obviously The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, but there's so many things that every time Ben Stiller touches something, it's so heartful. Like, it is so rich in every element, heavy and light. And he's just someone that I think gets life. And I'm not famous. I'm not a Hollywood star, right? But I think sometimes that there are individuals that let fame and money and stardom get to their head, and they live in a fantasy land where they just don't experience life outside of fame. And the same can be said for us that don't live in fame. We don't know the side of fame. We don't know the things that they have to go through that we have no consideration of, right? So there's two sides to that coin. I don't want to be ignorant in that fact. But Ben is someone that has not let any of that get in the way of telling stories that resonate to everyone. Not just people that live a lifestyle of the rich and the famous, right? It is so relatable, it's so down to earth, it's so human. And it's like that moment, it's like the ghost cat when Sean he just sits in the moment and he loves it and he's like, sometimes I don't like the camera to be a distraction and I just like to sit in it. Like that to me is Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
So shout out to you, Ben.
Ben, well, come on our show. Let's talk
I would
about
be
Walter Mitty.
honored.
God, that would be awesome.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna send an email tonight just for kicks and giggles, just to be like, you know what? Walter Mitty's my co-host's favorite movie. We just spent 2 hours talking about it. Please come on and just give us an hour or just some extra insights. Let us ask you some questions.
Dude, we will come to you.
We'll come to you.
We will make it as least
We'll buy your coffee.
troublesome.
Yeah, we'll come to you.
Anyways,
join us on social media. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're not on Facebook. I don't know if we're going to get on Facebook, but follow us on social media to know which shows are coming out, what you can look forward to, and give us a shout out. Drop us some money on Patreon if you really like our content. Get some exclusives, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. And I know I say this a lot, and it's kind of a ripoff. So I kind of feel bad about it, but I also I like it. Make sure you tell someone that you love them.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's a good message too with the Walter Mitty is one thing I've told people, especially this year, last year, I was taught about just how fleeting life is and how quick it can be gone. You have no idea when is the last time you're going to say hello and goodbye to someone. Make sure every time, especially with your loved ones, make sure that they know that you care, because you just never know.
And I will leave you with this. To see the world, things dangerous to come to see behind walls, to draw closer, to find each other and to feel. That is the purpose of life.
Damn, that was a good show, bro. Fuck! Gets better every time, bro. Gosh, damn.
That was great. That was good.
You got to bounce, right?